This world can be a comforting place, a warm place to be. That's what we see actually in this next part of John's gospel. Jesus has been arrested by the religious leaders. He's been bound up and he's been carried away to the high priest Caiaphas. But John, who writes the gospel that we're in, goes with Peter, one of the other disciples, and they find their way into the courts of the high priest. John, it seems, knows some of the people there, and they let him in, and Peter and John manage to get in, and they watch what is going on. If you remember last week, we saw this repetition of threes. 3 times Jesus in the garden shows that he is God. He says, I am. He is Yahweh. He is the promised God of Israel. He is God incarnate, the light of the world. He is there amongst them, come to do God's work, come to suffer and absorb the wrath of the Father for all of his children. Jesus is there. He's been carried away, bound up, and now he faces trial in front of the high priest. And it's an unjust trial. They throw lies at Jesus. They try and twist his works. They beat him, they slap him in the face, and all the while Peter is watching on. John remarks what could be just quite an incidental feature of what's going on here, but actually it's so telling. He says this as Peter and John are watching on. He says they were standing and warming themselves. Peter was standing and warming himself at a fire with a group of people that he doesn't know who are watching on, and they ask him, don't you know this guy? And you'll probably know how Peter responds. 3 times he denies Jesus, this repetition of 3 again, but each time John makes it clear, and he really points out just this incidental feature that Peter was standing and warming himself by the fire. Twice he repeats it. What is John saying? Well, as he's looking on at Jesus, there's a sharp contrast. Peter finds warmth and comfort with being distant from Jesus, isolating himself from Jesus, denying that he is one of Jesus' disciples. He finds warmth and comfort in being with people of the world. And at the other extreme, he sees Jesus being slapped in the face, being falsely accused, being beaten and mocked and tried. A presumably cold place that Peter does not want to be. Well, here's the thing. The fire that Peter is around soon goes out. The warmth that it provided to him soon goes cold. But when we're close to Jesus, that is never the case. Jesus gives us eternal comfort. The psalmist said in Psalm 16, at his right hand are pleasures forevermore. You see, so often when we look at what's going on around us, we can find the easy place and the comforting place and the warm place to be, just siding with the world, doing what the world does, doing what the world says is good, and rejecting Jesus and keeping our distance from him. But eternally, the things of the world will never be able to give us what we need. And so here's my short encouragement for us this week. Stay close to Jesus. Even though sometimes it looks like that might lead us into places that look painful, places that look like we might be rejected, places that look like they could lead to persecution, just like Jesus experienced in the coldness of the court. Places that might lead to us being falsely accused like Jesus was, or mocked like Jesus was. Or even in some cases, maybe not in the UK, but I know some people are listening in from other parts of the world, even lead to us being beaten and flogged and perhaps even losing our lives. But with an eternal perspective, that is the place that we want to be, close to Jesus, in his presence, a place where eternally we will enjoy his pleasures forevermore. In contrast to the short, flickering warmth that the world might offer, there is an infinitely better place to be. So would I encourage us all this week, stay close to Jesus. Even when it looks hard, stay close to him and have an eternal perspective of what he is leading you towards. Great eternity with him, the light of the world, where we will experience eternal comfort, eternal pleasure forevermore.